Yes, how about exploring Cordoba with us today? Are you ready to get lost in the narrow streets of the Jewish quarter? Take photos in the flower-filled atmosphere of Calleja de las Flores and admire Cordoba from the Roman bridge. Today in Cordoba, we are not just seeing beautiful streets, white houses, or picture-perfect corners. We are actually stepping, little by little, into the heart of a very ancient city. From the Roman era to Al-Andalus, from the Jewish quarter to the flower-filled streets, from historic gates to the bridge spanning the river, we are discovering different periods of Cordoba together. This is the kind of city where, while walking, you suddenly find yourself on a modern avenue, and just a few minutes later, standing in front of a structure that has survived for thousands of years. So, let's get started. And if you enjoy the video, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Yes, we are currently in Cordoba, one of the most beautiful cities in Spain. We are exploring Cordoba together, one of the most important cities in the Andalusia region. We are starting our tour at Cordoba train station. It is possible to reach Cordoba from Seville with a 45-minute high-speed train journey. As we walk toward the city center after getting off the train, we begin to see Cordoba's calm and peaceful side within the very first minutes. It feels like a city that doesn't tire you out right away or rush you along. We pass through wide, well-maintained streets while everyday life unfolds naturally around us. Then, all of a sudden, we find ourselves in the middle of a lush green park. The name of this park is Jardins de la Victoria, Victoria Parks. The shade of the trees, the walking paths, people sitting on benches, others quietly relaxing. Everything feels so calm and peaceful. It is as if the city is telling us from the very beginning, slow down, look around, and experience this place with all your senses. As we walk through the park, we begin to understand how layered Cordoba really is. Here, nature, daily life, and history are not separate from one another. They all exist side by side. On one side, people are out for a walk. On the other, the city center is beginning to come alive. Yet just a few steps later, we find ourselves face to face with an entirely different era. As we continue on our way, let's enjoy this relaxing park together. Although this large park where city residents come to relax and catch their breath continues on, we carry on with our walk along the avenue. The name of this large avenue is Paseo de la Victoria. And right in the middle of this walk, we come across Roman-era tombs standing in the heart of the modern city. Imagine stepping out of the train station and walking toward the city center only to suddenly find traces of ancient Rome before you. To me, that's one of the most remarkable things about Cordoba. History is not hidden away, here it appears right along your path, woven into everyday life. One moment we are in present-day Cordoba, and the next we are looking at remnants of the Roman period. That's why, even at the very beginning of our journey, the city is already starting to reveal itself to us. After seeing the Roman tombs, we continue walking and now turn our route toward one of Cordoba's most distinctive areas, the Jewish Quarter, known as La Juderia letters. We are now standing in front of Cordoba's medieval city walls. As we approach the gate through which we will enter the Jewish Quarter, we can see a statue of the famous Cordoban philosopher Seneca beside a reflecting pool. We enter the Jewish Quarter through the Puerta da Almadava, a gate located within the old city walls of Cordoba. Although the gate's origins date back to the 10th century during the Umayyad period of Al-Andalus, it acquired its present appearance in the 14th century under Christian rule. And as soon as we enter this quarter, we are greeted by the word Judeos on a wall, the Spanish word for Jews. The Jewish Quarter is not only famous for its narrow streets, whitewashed walls, and charming courtyards. It also carries one of Cordoba's deepest and most important stories. During the Middle Ages, Cordoba was known as one of the most significant centers where Muslims, Christians, and Jews lived side by side within the same city. For this reason, the city has long been referred to as the City of Three Cultures. As you walk through this neighborhood, it is hard not to think about the people who once lived here. Centuries ago, people of different faiths walked these same streets, side by side, trading, talking, working, and creating knowledge together. The Jewish Quarter, in particular, stood out as a place where some of the era's most important thinkers and scholars emerged. So, as we walk through these stone-paved streets today, we are not simply exploring a historic district. We are following the traces of an old world where knowledge, faith, commerce, and everyday life were deeply intertwined. But beneath this beautiful setting lies a more sorrowful story. In 1492, when the Jews were expelled from Spain, the neighborhood underwent a profound transformation. Many families were forced to leave behind their homes, businesses, familiar streets, and cherished memories. But beneath this beautiful setting lies a more sorrowful story. In 1492, when the Jews were expelled from Spain, the neighborhood underwent a profound transformation. Many families were forced to leave behind their homes, businesses, familiar streets, and cherished memories. Streets that had once been full of life gradually fell silent. The synagogue was used for different purposes over time. The neighborhood changed, and its people disappeared, yet their stories seem to have remained. Perhaps that is part of what creates the unique atmosphere one feels while wandering through La Juderia today. The streets are beautiful, the houses elegant, and the courtyards captivating, yet there is also a quiet sense of reflection in the air. It feels as though these narrow lanes still hold the voices and memories of the people who once called this place home. We are now passing in front of the student entrance to the Faculty of Philosophy and Letters of the University of Cordoba, which we will talk about in more detail shortly. The students bring a special energy and liveliness to this area. Now we find ourselves in one of the most beautiful corners of Cordoba Plaza del Cardenal Salazar. The large yellow building in front of us is currently home to the Faculty of Philosophy and Letters of the University of Cordoba. What makes this place particularly interesting, however, is that it was not originally a university faculty building at all, it was a hospital. This building was once known as the Hospital del Cardenal Salazar, or Cardinal Salazar Hospital. It was established in the early 18th century, primarily to provide care for the poor and the sick. Imagine it, centuries ago, through the same doors now used by students. Patients, doctors, clergy, and people seeking help once came and went. If you take a closer look at the building, you can still sense that history. With its grand stone entrance, tall windows, iron grills, and simple yet imposing facade, it is more than just an attractive historic structure. It is a place that played an important role in the social life of Cordoba. Once a center of healing for the city, it has now become a center of learning and knowledge. To me, that transformation is the most fascinating part of its story. The same building, the same stones, the same doorways, but as time changed, so did its purpose. It once provided people with health care. Today it provides students with education. Its location, just a short walk from the Jewish quarter, adds another layer of significance. As you stroll through this area, You are not simply looking at a university building. You can also feel something of the spirit of old Cordoba, where Christian, Jewish, and Islamic cultures once existed side by side and shaped the character of the city. So when you pass by this building, do not dismiss it as simply another beautiful monument. It is one of those places that quietly tells the story of how Cordoba has evolved through the centuries, while still preserving the memory of its past. In Cordoba, the most impressive places are not always the grandest monuments. Sometimes they are small, hidden corners like this one. The Chapel of San Bartolome is exactly that kind of play, teeny in size, yet carrying centuries of Cordoba's history within its walls. It is considered one of the finest examples of Juderia architecture in Cordoba. The Juderia style developed during the Christian period, but incorporated the artistic traditions of Islamic culture, including intricate geometric patterns, decorative motifs, and elegant architectural details. As a result, buildings like this one beautifully reflect the blending of cultures that has shaped Cordoba throughout its history. We are now in one of Cordoba's most colorful and peaceful corners, the Zoco Municipal. At first glance, it looks like a small courtyard, but inside you'll find workshops and shops that keep Cordoba's rich tradition of craftsmanship alive. Ceramics, leatherwork, jewelry, and a variety of handmade traditional products can all be found here. As soon as you step inside, one of the first things that catches your eye is the decoration on the courtyard walls. The paintings surrounding the windows, the musical instruments, the figures dressed in traditional clothing, and the stone-paved ground all give the space a distinctly local and historic character. It feels less like a shopping area and more like a small scene from everyday life in Cordoba. This place is also closely connected to Cordoba's famous Patios de Cordoba tradition. Flower-filled courtyards, shaded passageways, cool stone walls, and hidden beauty tucked away behind unassuming entrances. These are some of the city's most beloved features. In fact, that is one of the most wonderful things about Cordoba. You can be walking down an ordinary street, step through a doorway you were not expecting, and suddenly find yourself in a completely different world, a quiet, beautiful courtyard hidden from the bustle outside. The exit gate of this charming complex leads us into Plaza Maimonides, and from there we continue wandering through the narrow streets of the Jewish quarter, happily losing ourselves among its winding alleys. The shops selling colorful local souvenirs unique to the area add a special vibrancy and charm to the streets. As we wander through La Juderia, we come across one of the neighborhood's most famous landmarks, the bronze statue of Maimonides. Born in Cordoba, Maimonides was one of the most influential philosophers, physicians, and thinkers of his time. There is also a charming local tradition associated with the statue. It is said that anyone who touches its hand or foot will gain good luck and wisdom. That is why certain parts of the sculpture appear noticeably shinier than the rest over the years. Thousands of visitors have stopped here and touched those very spots. And when you see this tradition for yourself, it is hard not to wonder, could it really bring a little extra luck after all? One of the most important landmarks in this area is the Córdoba Synagogue. From the outside, it appears quite small and modest. In fact, your first reaction might be, is this really it? But once you step inside, you begin to understand just how significant this little building truly is. The Córdoba Synagogue was built in 1314. It is considered the only surviving medieval synagogue in Andalusia and one of the best preserved medieval synagogues in Spain. For that reason, despite its small size, its historical importance is immense. Inside, the intricate wall decorations, geometric patterns, and Hebrew inscriptions immediately draw your attention. This was once a place of worship, a place where people gathered, maintained their identity, and practiced their faith. However, after the expulsion of the Jews from Spain in 1492, the building lost its original function. Standing here today, it is difficult not to reflect on Cordoba's past. There was a time when Muslims, Christians, and Jews lived side by side in this city, creating one of the most remarkable multicultural societies of the medieval world. This small synagogue stands as a quiet yet powerful reminder of that era. To me, that is exactly what makes this place so special. It is not grand, imposing, or lavishly decorated. Yet within its walls lies a profound history, the memory of a great loss, and the many layers of Cordoba's rich and complex past. And then there are the streets of La Juderia themselves, narrow, winding, and almost maze-like. As you walk through them, you often have no idea where the next turn will lead. Today we see them as charming, romantic, and incredibly photogenic. But there were practical reasons why they were designed this way. The narrow streets help reduce the intense summer heat by creating shade and keeping the neighborhood cooler. At the same time, they made it more difficult for outsiders to move through the area, giving the quarter a greater sense of security. That is why some streets end in small cul-de-sacs, while others suddenly open into hidden courtyards and tiny squares. And that is exactly what makes La Juderia so special. Walking here feels like much more than visiting a tourist attraction. It is as if the neighborhood does not reveal itself all at once. Instead, it invites you to wander, to get a little lost, to slow down and pay attention. Around every corner there is a small detail, and every street has its own atmosphere. Sometimes it is a cluster of flowers against a whitewashed wall that catches your eye. Sometimes an old wooden door. Sometimes simply the quietness of the stone-paved streets beneath your feet. When all of these elements come together, this is where we feel the spirit of Cordoba most strongly. After leaving the Jewish quarter, our route takes us to one of Cordoba's most famous and photogenic spots, Calle de las Flores, or the Street of Flowers. True to its name, this is a narrow and charming alley filled with flowers. Brightly colored flower pots decorate the whitewashed walls, and every corner is full of small details that catch the eye. But what makes this street truly special is not just the flowers. As you walk toward the end of the alley, one of Cordoba's most iconic views gradually comes into sight. The combination of the narrow passageway, the colorful flowers, and the historic city backdrop creates a scene that looks as if it belongs on a postcard. It is almost impossible not to stop and take a photograph here. After all, this is one of the places that best captures Cordoba's warm, colorful, and romantic atmosphere. Imagine a street that is very short, yet leaves a lasting impression. That is exactly what Calle de las Flores is all about. After that, we continue our walk along the street beside the Mezquite Cathedral. We will also be exploring the interior of this magnificent monument, so don't forget to watch the second part of our Cordoba video. This path then leads us to Puerta del Puente, or the Bridge Gate. We are now arriving at one of Cordoba's most iconic landmarks, Puerta del Puente, or the Bridge Gate. This impressive structure marks the transition from the historic city center to the Roman bridge. At first glance, it looks like a triumphal arch, but in reality, it served as one of the most important entrances to the city throughout its history. For centuries, travelers approaching Cordoba from the south would cross the Guadalquivir River and enter the city through this very gate. In other words, the place where we now stop to take photographs was once one of the first sites that merchants, travelers, soldiers, and visitors encountered when arriving in Cordoba. Just beyond the gate stretches Cordoba's famous Roman bridge, one of the city's oldest and most symbolic landmarks. As its name suggests, the bridge dates back to the Roman period. Although the structure we see today has been restored and modified many times over the centuries, the sense of history it carries remains as powerful as ever. As we walk across the bridge, the Guadalquivir River flows beside us, while Cordoba's historic skyline unfolds in the distance. If you turn around, you are rewarded with one of the city's most iconic views, the Mezquite Cathedral, Puerta del Puente, and the Old Town all framed together in a single scene. To me, this is one of the most beautiful views in all of Cordoba. This bridge is much more than a simple connection between two riverbanks. It feels like a passage linking every chapter of Cordoba's history, from the Roman era to the Islamic period, from Christian rule to the present day. Walking here, you truly get the sense that Cordoba preserves its past not only in its streets, but also in its bridges, gates, and stones. Now, as we continue across the Roman bridge, we take a step back and look at the city from a different perspective. Sometimes the best way to understand a city is to view it from a little distance. The city remains behind us, the river stretches out before us, and from the bridge Cordoba's historic character appears even more striking. This is not simply a crossing point. It feels like a long pathway connecting the city's past to its present. On one side lies the old city, on the other the river, and beneath our feet a bridge that has stood here for centuries. It is, without a doubt, one of the most memorable and beautiful spots in Cordoba. We've come to the end of a wonderful day in Cordoba. We wandered through the history-filled streets of the Jewish quarter, lost ourselves among the colors of the flower street, and visited one of the best-preserved medieval synagogues in Europe. Finally, we crossed the Roman bridge and paid our respects to history at Porta del Punta. Now, as we leave through the Porta da Almodova, the same gate through which we entered the old city, we bring this first chapter of Cordoba's remarkable story to a close. Tomorrow we're heading to the heart of Cordoba to visit the Mezquitita. We'll wander through its breathtaking forest of columns and explore this unique monument that preserves both Islamic and Christian heritage. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and support us. In the upcoming episodes, we'll continue exploring fascinating cities and uncovering unique stories from around the world together. See you in the next episode.